So let's talk about interviews, types of interview. There are a gazillion different types, and we are now using all of them. But if we take it back a level, what's the point of an interview? The whole process is supposed to be predictive of future on-the-job success. Interviews are an absolutely terrible way to predict future on-the-job success. One study says that they're accurate, unstructured interviews are accurate 13% of the time. They're not great. But unfortunately, it's really the backbone of what we do. So, but first of all, let's look at the types of interviews. The pandemic has really introduced some of these as come into the fore. The phone interview, as well as the video interview, the Zoom interview. There's something like 55% of nonverbal signals get lost through electronic media. My joke when I meet people for the first time after basically getting to know them on Zoom is like, well, I didn't realize you had legs. But there's more to it than that, obviously. Well, yeah, there better be. Bear that in mind. You must be very clear with communication because of that. But let's take a look at some of the interviews. And you know, you've got the electronic media, but beyond that, the typical interview process, it tends to start off with a pre-screen interview. That tends to be a fairly cursory, high-level interview. The first interview tends to be with the talent acquisition professional, whether it be agency or company side. And the second interview tends to get into the the line manager and more specialized, getting into the weeds a little bit with your experience. You may also suffer through a panel interview. They're an animal unto themselves. The general rule of thumb, I won't cover it on a separate video, but the general rule of thumb with a panel interview is look for the person who's the pack leader. Address the entire group, but look for the person who's the pack leader. Each of those interviews presents a different set of challenges, obviously. So let's take a look at each of these interviews, the pre-screen, the first interview, the second interview. Some of the peculiarities, try saying that quickly, some of the peculiarities of each of these interviews and what you can do to prepare for those interviews. So let's move on with the types of interview and go from there.